Hey, welcome to Warhammer Station. I'm Colin, and today's video is about just what I'm thinking as far as what games I want to play, some observations about these two armies you see on the screen, um, and what my future and the rest of this year going forward is. So my philosophy, what I really enjoy the most when I play 40K and the tabletop stuff is close combat. And it's what I get the most joy out of, moving across the board, running headfirst in the enemy, tearing them apart, and being maximizing my effectiveness doing that. So at this past Lone Star Open, I played 6 games with the world leaders, and I actually did really well, I thought, against armies that I know I can do well against. The first game I played was against Custodes, and it was just, I was on the back foot the whole time, and I never could get past anything. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But every game subsequent to that, my list did really well against Knights. I think I had a little bit of failures in the second game playing Chaos Knights that kind of held me up. Not necessarily blaming the dice per se, but had a really bad wound roll against an Armiger or a War Dog that caused it to live, and really wasn't able to consolidate into another Knight and let that Knight keep its firepower on the board. But the other Knights I've done really well against. I haven't had the opportunity to play against Imperial Knights except for casual games, but I really think my list was pretty decent. For the record, what my list was Angron, Land Raider, 3 War Dogs, the Brigands with the hit on 2s and have the bonus AP, their closest available, a unit of Terminators, and a unit of Jackals that would go on the Land Raiders if they needed to. It seems like not much, and I think the list did really well. Angron was able to get close and do a lot of damage. See the other games I played in Death Guard and did really well against them. I played into Imperial Guard, did really well against them. And I played into Grey Knights and did really well against them as far as killing models goes. So World Leaders are really good, really effective at that. One thing I'm worried about is I go between leaning into it more of the whole scout moves and moving across the board really fast with 8-bound and just really tearing stuff up. I think that's if you take that kind of a list, it really telegraphs what you're going to do to the opponent, and a telegraph is easy to counter for the right thing. There is something to be said about, though, that puts the other player, when you have everything on the board and all the players are going to line up against that, and it really messes with their deployment. So there's something to be said about that, but 6 of one, half a dozen the other. And then so more about the World Leaders that makes me super pumped for future releases. There's not many units in the World Leaders Codex, and furthermore, a lot of the Chaos Space Marine stuff didn't transfer over. There's no Raptors, there's no Bikes. It's only like Forge Fiends and a few other things that was able to that came over from the Chaos Space Marines. There's a lot missing there. So what that means is there is a lot of stuff coming in that once a new book comes out next year, next summer, hopefully, that the World Leaders are going to get a lot of stuff. So many things that they don't have, like they don't have free strats except if you take an enhancement. They don't have a Terminator Lord. There's nobody leading the Terminators deep striking in, but then you have this Azrak model that's a special one that was released. There's a lot of speculation on what new models could be for the World Leaders. they're all going to be close combat focused. There's never going to be any fancy shooting unit. But like, I wish we could get the Vindicators back. I think they should be in there, right? And when you compare like Forge Fiends to the Cal Space Marines ones, they just, there's nothing there for them. They can shoot really well if Angron's next to them, but you don't really want to have Angron being a 450 point, 15 point unit in the back, just buffing the shooter unit for a couple shots. So it's really hard to figure out, what's going to speculate what's going to come out. I think there's some low-hanging fruits, but what we want to see is like berserkers on a mounted berserkers on the juggernaut mounts, right? So that would be really cool, but that unit's going to be really expensive, and points wise, hell, and money wise, it could, there's 3 models to a box or something at $60-$70. So, well, there's going to be fun and effective on the tabletop. I think they're going to be fun and look really cool. I question how effective are they going to be on the tabletop, and they'll probably be really good, especially when the new codex comes out, and especially led by the mounted HQs, Lord Invocatus and Lord on a Juggernaut. So I'm really looking forward to those guys. There's pure speculation that they're even coming out, but I think they're going to be really, really cool when they do. It seems like too easy of a unit for GW not to put out, right? And so my premise, though, is, whether it's true or not, it really feels that way, is that the World Eaters units are overpriced, or the points cost are too high in the index cards. And I think this is an intentional thing to keep World Eaters on, kind of like keep them down in the meta. And when I mean the meta, I mean like win percentages across tournaments. And like in this WTC event coming up, nobody's running World Eaters at all. So, and I think the easiest thing to say about it is their units are too expensive for what they do. You compare an 8-bound to a Custodes Guardian, and they just don't hold a candle. They can move faster, but they don't hit as hard. They don't shoot anything. They don't have the survivability. And so, for just a similarly costed model, the efficiency and the value just isn't there, right? And so, after Custodes doing really well at tournaments, after playing against them and see how they play, and tying in with my philosophy of how the Custodes play on the tabletop, it's really attractive to me. I've bought some, I've painted some up. I want to see how they play. And I really like elite armies that have few models on the table, and just being able to manage, have a few things. My brain is capable. I have IG, I have Astra Militarum, I have played those. I haven't brought them out in 10th edition because it's a lot to keep track of. I want to ease into the edition and see how things are. The other thing I have to balance is my desire just to take skulls for the Skull Throne and being effective on the tabletop. And that's where I think the Custodes can really be the most effective. They hit really hard no matter how you slice it. Their weapons in the shooting phase are pretty much only strength 4 as far as infantry models goes, but they're 2 damage apiece at -1 AP. And so that's nothing to shy away from. It really is super powerful on the tabletop. And then depending on the units you're running, either Wardens or Guardians or Alaris Terminators, they do some serious damage and they show up where they want. Plus being able to ally in Assassins. Calidus is where it's at, being able to debuff, vect as they say, the opponent's command points. Being able to get free command point uses with shield captains is eminently valuable. You know, they have a -1 damage strat at range. And so stuff that's shooting at you that can really hurt you. You spend 2 command points on that, and you get a free one elsewhere, and it just is really, really powerful. You know, they also have Armor of Contempt. They have Fight First. And the thing that is really selling me on this stuff, one of the most frustrating things to think about in this edition, to face on the tabletop, is... Oh, let me fix my camera there. I messed it up. One of the most frustrating things to deal with in this edition is you go to kill a squad, you kill some models in a unit, and the opponent has an apothecary or spends a command point, in the case of the Custodes, and that unit comes back. It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. And there's so much advantage to this stuff. There's so much to gain from a unit coming back, from a model coming back, that World Leaders just don't have access to. There is a -1 damage strat for World Leaders, but it's only in the close combat phase. It's only in the fight phase, right? So you got your 8-bound coming in, and it would be really nice if this strat worked to ranged attacks coming into them, and they might be a lot more effective in that case. So it's really, and there is no Armor of Contempt style strat for World Leaders. So it's really hard to want to paint up these cool models, and nobody wants to play these games where you're putting up your models just to take them off as fast as you put them out. And World Leaders in the Custodes does that right now. Custodes, I think, are able to really do well into almost every army. And it fits all these criteria that I want to play, as far as like low model count. You know, I can transport it really easy. My brain can comprehend what's going on. Effectiveness in the fight phases, the durability to get there. You know, the Wardens have a 1-time 4-up feel no pain. So, and then you pair them with a Blade Champion, and they're going to get what they're going to go and really do some damage. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play. I've got to get more games in. I want to play them at this Wasteland Wars tournament. And I'm excited to see how this is going to go. I am painting a traditional color scheme. I feel kind of filthy playing on the loyalist side of it. But I really want to, you know, I'm going to have some extra models left over. I might paint them up in some sort of evil paint scheme. But I'm not sure what that's going to be like, you know. I'm having fun speculating what that's going to be. But even just painting them in the traditional way is really, really fun. So look out on the Instagram. I'll give some army updates for this thing. And I still have a lot of models out there and a lot of fun playing with this stuff. And I can't wait to share with you how that's going to go. But anyways, that's all I really have for today. If you have some more insights, just let me know. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts on, you know, where you think World Leaders are, where they're going to go. You know, as far as nerfs go, I really think Custodes might be on the chopping block for some nerfs. But I really have a lot of confidence. You know, back in 9th edition, when Dark Eldar Drukhari came out, they were dominant for so long, even after multiple balance passes. I think it was 2 or 3, and the Custodes were still on top. And it was a saying with, what do you call those guys? Harlequins. They did several balance passes to these guys, and they were still delivering wins in tournaments because of how oppressive they were. And what that means is the Custodes, I feel, are going to be the same way, but with the Eldar and Harlequins in the past and the Dark Eldar in the past, the success of these armies balanced on a knife edge, in a sense of, if if they were too heavy-handed in the nerfs, then the armies were just worthless. And if they were too light-handed, it wasn't enough. And so I think that's where the delicateness of these armies is going to be. The delicateness of the nerfs on these armies is going to be. As opposed to Gene Stealer cults and Imperial Knights. I feel like in the past when GW has nerfed these armies, they've been oppressive, and to where it just made them totally ineffective. And I think Gene Stealer cults and Knights will end up in the same bucket on these things. I'm real interested to see how it's going to go. I'm super pleased in putting all these models together and coming up with fun ideas for how these armies are going to work on the tabletop. But yeah, once again, please engage. I want to hear your thoughts. We got comments down below. You got Discord, all these other things, and I need to do some more live streams. I want to do that. We've got a really busy schedule, and again, I'm excited to see how things are going to go. But I appreciate y'all joining me, and y'all have a great day.